Well, y'all know my old buddy Lim was part of the Parsons family there in the town where I grew up. Now, Parsons family that Lim grew up in, they wasn't the sharpest pile of tools in the shed, but they's nice folks. They never broke too many laws on purpose. They never had a lot of money, but they made do with what they had and wasn't too upset about it. But now 2 counties over in Wagner County, there's a bunch of Parsons over there that was some of Lim's very distant cousins. That's a different story over there. Now that bunch, they wasn't nothing but liars, cheats, and thieves. Nearly every one of them had some kind of warrant out for their arrest. Well, Lim found out the hard way one day why his mama had always told him to stay away from him and not have nothing to do with the Wagner County Parsons. You see, old Lim worked on a chicken farm there in our town. There's actually a pretty slick operation. They raised chickens from little babies all the way up to adults, frying size, and then they'd slaughter them. They had an old pickup truck they'd throw all the guts and heads and feet into. They'd drive that pickup truck back to the back of the property where they had 5 ponds back there full of catfish. They'd throw all the guts and leftovers in the pond with them catfish. And then at the end of the summer, they'd clean all the catfish out of there, take them to market and sell them. Well, now, I know you're not going to believe me, but the folks that run the chicken and the catfish farm, well, their name was Sanders. And actually, the gentleman that ran the whole deal, they called him the Colonel. And now, if I'm lying about this, I'll die for it. But his name was Colonel Sanders. Technically, it was Kernel, but it was spelled Kernel, like a kernel of corn. Well, for obvious reasons, everybody called him Colonel Sanders. So, the Colonel ran that business out there, and old Lim worked for him for 3 or 4 years after we got out of high school. Well, one day, old Lim wasn't feeling too good. He was kind of starting to run a fever. Now, most jobs, they just tell you to take some Tylenol and keep working. But out there at the Sanders Chicken and Catfish Farm, they's afraid if you got sick, you's going to pass something to them chickens and kill them all. So Lim went and told the Colonel he wasn't feeling too good. And the Colonel said, well, you get on out of here before you kill off my whole flock of chickens. Lim said, well, sir, I ain't got no way to get home. He said, well, we're done killing chickens for the day. Drive a truck down there to the back pond and dump all them guts, and then you can drive the truck on home. Well, old Lim took the truck back there, dumped all the guts, and then he headed down the highway back to town to go home. Well, his fever kept rising the whole time. By the time he got about halfway to town, he was darn near out of his head with the fever, getting a little loopy, getting kind of drowsy, and he started swerving, as the story goes anyway. Well, one of the sheriff's deputies observed him swerving all over the road, so he pulled in behind him and hit the lights of the siren and pulled old Lim over. Well, that deputy come walking up there to talk to Lim, realized there wasn't no license plates on that truck. The fact of the matter is, they hadn't been licensed on it probably 15 years because it never left the ranch. Well, then he happened to glance in the bed of the truck. There was a couple of chicken feet, a bunch of feathers, and a whole bunch of blood. It got that deputy just a little bit nervous. He walked on up to the cab, asked Lim for proof of insurance and registration. Why, there hadn't been no registration or insurance on that truck even longer. Lim got in the glove box. All that was in there was an old rusty screwdriver and some Dairy Queen napkins. The deputy got even more nervous then. He said, sir, I'm going to need to see some identification. Well, Lim had the clarity of mind to reach in his pocket and try to feel around for his wallet. When he did, he realized he'd left his blue jeans back at the ranch. All he had on was his boxer shorts, a t-shirt, and that pair of old gray Dickies coveralls they let him wear to keep the chicken mess off their good clothes. Well, the deputy told old Lim to get out of the truck. And Lim, in his fever-induced stupor, must have said something wrong to that deputy, because the county had just bought all the deputies a stun gun. I reckon that deputy was kind of itching to use it. And he did. He shocked old Lim about 5 or 6 times with it, He just kept after him till Lem laid on the ground, couldn't even move. He handcuffed Lem, threw him in the back of the squad car, and hauled him off down to the jail. And when he got there, old Lem was just about unconscious, so they threw some ice-cold water on him to wake him up. They asked him what his name was. He told them Lem Parsons, but he kind of mumbled it. That set into motion a pretty tragic event. You see, 2 counties over in Wagner County, there's a fellow by the name of Leonard Parsons, but he went by Len Parsons, L-E-N. When they called around to the different counties, Wagner County reported back that Len Parsons had 7 different warrants out for his arrest. Well, poor old Lem couldn't even remember his mama's phone number to call her to get her to come straighten it out. And by the time she found out about it and got down to the jailhouse, they'd done strip searched, cavity searched, and deloused old Lem. They put a pair of them orange jumpsuit things on him and some leg shackles. They had him in the drunk tank in there with a bunch of the other criminals from the county. He's laying there on the floor shivering. Well, Lem's mama got it all straightened out, hauled him back home. Lem learned 2 really important things that day. Number 1, don't ever go anywhere without your identification. Number 2, do anything and everything you can to avoid being associated with the Parsons family from Wagner County.